It's a CaliGriot. I want to report from Democracy Now! The U.S. prepares to arrest surge of migrants at the southern border, but welcome 100,000 Ukrainian refugees. We know from living in the belly of the beast exactly how racist our country can be. I don't know any immigrants from Haiti myself. I don't know a lot of immigrants, period. But I can view what's happening in Ukraine to the black people trying to escape the war, the students with ID, and the preposterous fears that accompany our black bodies. Our skin causes fear. Our skin is considered a weapon, a deadly weapon of some kind, because the reaction to these people to us is as if we're pulling a weapon on them, as if we're attacking them. Living life, trying to live life. Well, the journalists are being attacked. The mass media in the United States is trying to paint the Biden administration as so loving and accepting. Yeah, if you're blonde-haired and blue-eyed. I'm going to let this journalist speak. And this is being used for educational purposes. And I want you to hear this. I got it for you.
Yourself, you're so Mexican. It's like, no, I'm obsessed with the capacity that this country has for inhumanity, and specifically watching how that inhumanity is being thrust on people who are black and simply seeking refuge.
Maria, I mean, the fact that you gave a voice to people is what the mainstream media is doing right now with Ukrainians. It is a model of how all refugees should be treated. So I wanted to go to your reports for the series you did where you met this Haitian family, the family Felix, in the Mexican state of Oaxaca, as they made their way north with a migrant caravan. The Felix family, as you said, fled Haiti over a decade ago after the horrendous earthquake that killed some 300,000 people. They resettled in Brazil until they were once again forced to flee, this time to the U.S.-Mexico border. So this is a clip from Latino USA called The Moving Border, even further south, where the family tells you about their experience crossing through the Darien Gap, a notoriously dangerous, dense jungle that stretches across the Colombian and Panamanian border.
Comemos leche en polvo y chocolate en polvo. Así, y beber agua del río. Vimos muchas personas muertas ahí.
Sí, nos vimos como tres.
The Felix's children tell me they saw dead bodies in the jungle, people who looked like them, but they had to keep going. Eventually, they were detained by Panamanian police and sent back to Colombia. So they had to do the unthinkable, start all over again and cross back into the Darien jungle.
So in January, over 2 months after you said goodbye to the Felix family in Oaxaca, you received the message from the mother asking you to call her.
Buenos días. Widelin. Amor. Ay, Widelin, ¿qué pasó? Yo no sé. ¿Qué pasó? Yo no sé. Qué cosa más horrible, Widelin, qué cosa más horrible. Llegamos allá, duramos como 15 días en la prisión y de ahí nos colocaron en avión en Texas y nos regresaron aquí en Haití.
Widelin and her entire family is now in Haiti. 10 years after she escaped the devastation of an earthquake that destroyed everything that she had worked for, after birthing her 2 youngest children in the Dominican Republic, after living in South America for years, after crossing the Darien jungle twice, She and her family made it to the U.S., but 15 days later, the Biden administration deported them back to Haiti.
That's Marina Hossa's report from called The Moving Border. It is so moving, Maria. And if you can talk about what the actions have meant, because as you talk about this caravan of hope and of love, it's the immigrant rights movement that has forced this action that's expected to be announced today, ending Title 42, which has used the pandemic as a way to prevent so many immigrants. We certainly haven't heard this in the case of Ukraine, but coming into the United States or being detained once they do.
You know, Amy, what I'm hoping, but I have not so much of it. This was a perfect opportunity, in fact, for the Biden administration to completely switch everything up. This is a moment where the Biden administration could say, we're changing everything now because we are going to be committed to what we say we are. This is a moment where the Biden administration could not only get rid of Title 42, stop MPP, reorganize the Border Patrol, because we all saw with our own eyes Border Patrol officials on horses with whips on Black people. So we cannot be gaslit upon what we are living. Sadly, it looks like the Biden administration is more interested in appeasing to people who are afraid of migrants and refugees and Black people. And our job as journalists is to say, look at the treatment of Ukrainian refugees, look at the treatment of Honduran, Salvadoran, Guatemalan, Haitian, African migrants and refugees. And there has to be one way to treat all humanity. So I'm feeling quite desperate. You know, Viveline and I are in touch. She's desperate to get help. She says that now that she's in Haiti, she's terrified for her 2 young girls because it's so unsafe. So, Amy, for me personally, as a human being, this is ripping into my heart. As a journalist, I'm just like, I'm going to keep at it. I'm not going to stop. And I'm going to demand accountability because what we are seeing is not just the suffering of Ukrainian refugees, but people on our side of the continent. And they need love. And they need that hug from Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, both of them, to say, we welcome you. We see you and we welcome you. And thank you, Amy and Juan, for recognizing the journalism and for allowing me to get a little emotional because, hey, if you lose all your emotion, then what good are we as journalists?
Wow. Wow. The emotion. Yes. Very emotional to see Joe Biden hugging and loving on the little Ukrainian girl and seeing Haitians whipped on horseback patrol. This is something we need to keep an eye on as Ukrainians are coming here being welcomed. Afghans coming here. But we don't have room for Black people. The Black people in the United States that are citizens are being abused, denied housing, denied affordable housing. Meanwhile, all these refugees are coming in. We can't get the reparations for building this country, but they're spending the money on immigrants. On immigrants. This is the money that we need to restore ourselves. So, refugees, we're POWs. We are refugees in this country, if you think about it. We're prisoners of war. 400 years. So, as they're accepting and welcoming according to human rights, remember the human rights we don't have right here, right now, in 2022. The sixth leading cause of death of black men is being shot down by the United States police force. We have 2.5 million black people incarcerated due to the 1994 crime bill of Joe Biden's, where he says, I don't want my mother hit in the head with a lead pipe. I don't care what makes them the way they are. He wanted us tracked and he wanted us arrested. And he's continuing to be anti-black as we sit up and vote for him. You need to think about, do you want to vote for the lesser evil? When are we going to be able to vote for someone good that represents us and our humanity? Think about that before we become the base again for the Democratic Party. We can't get anything that we've asked for. Joe Biden's rates are so low. Why? Because the black base wants their reparations. Reparations now for black people who have been here for 400 years, and our families can be traced even to being actual descendants of these presidents and Supreme Courts and all these magistrates in the United States abusing and raping our women. And we are looking at them whine and cry about rape of Ukrainian women. Oh man. Anyway, this is a CaliGriot, just a little bit upset, just a little bit emotional. If they're going to let in any refugees, let the black refugees in and quit playing with us. It's the CaliGriot reporting.